Somebody who's a first-time home buyer goes, my parents didn't have a house. I'm just going to be a forever renter. I'm going to give up because it's just too challenging. What do you say to them?
I say that I get that and I understand that mindset because it is a high dollar space and there's always something, even if it's a studio condo for 150,000, it's still an entry point. You might be able to rent something that is larger square footage, but that money is evaporating. It's going out in the universe and you're not getting any kind of return on there.
What do you think has to change in order for people to feel more comfortable to purchase in Hawaii who might be scared of displacing people or gentrification? What do you think needs to change for them in order to purchase?
I think it's a mindset shift where people can recognize that they are part of the solution and not part of the pollution. So having that mindset shift of, I don't want to displace somebody, it's like, well, I feel like if you're there and you're actively working to make your community better, there is no displacement going on there. There is an opportunity to amplify the voice of the voiceless when you are coming from that place of service. So we want more of that in our community.
And what if somebody who's a first-time home buyer goes, my parents didn't have a house. I'm just going to be a forever renter. I'm going to give up because it's just too challenging. What do you say to them?
I say that I get that and I understand that mindset because it is a high dollar space and there's always something, even if it's a studio condo for 150,000, it's still an entry point. You might be able to rent something that is larger square footage, but that money is evaporating. It's going out in the universe and you're not getting any kind of return on there. If you're buying something, it is forced savings, or you're paying some interest for the opportunity to leverage someone else's money.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you are paying yourself. You're getting a tax benefit from that, which you don't get when you're renting. So to me, it's like first-time home buyers have it the hardest, but they are the ones who can break a generational curse of not building wealth. And that's so important to do. Someone's got to do it.
Right.
Don't put it on your children.
My husband and I always say, although you didn't come from a wealthy family can come from you.
I love that concept because it's kind of reclaiming ownership of your ability to create the reality you want for yourself and for generations in the future.
We do the rocking chair test, right? Where you're sitting in a rocking chair and you're like, I don't know, 50 years from now, 30 years from now, you say, I'm so glad I did this because now the generations behind me are so much better.
Yes.
When you think about your wealthiest clients, right? What are they doing differently that you wish first-time homebuyers would do, or that something that you're incorporating in your life as a result of seeing how they move through this world?
Their mindset around leveraging debt is a game changer. So you start where you've got some kind of personal debt, credit card debt or something, where you're not actually getting any good return on your investment.
Bad debt.
Yeah. So to come from a family where bad debt was crippling can make you adverse to all debt. And I think that that is something that people don't realize, that when you can leverage someone else's money, you cannot borrow money to buy stock the way that you can with a single family home, any kind of real estate. It's one of the only pieces of equity that you can get money from an outside source and benefit from it in so many ways. So that debt leveraging is something that I see all the time. And the simple version is buying property. The more interesting version is having some kind of business and not paying taxes on debt. So you just keep getting bigger and bigger debts and you never pay taxes on that, and that's how the rich get richer.
Did you come from a wealthy family? Like, where did you get all of this knowledge? Like, how did you become this knowledgeable person?
I'm interested in it. I have a little ADHD.
Okay.
So when I find something that's interesting, I do a really deep dive on it. I'm first generation American. My parents were born and raised in Haiti.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So middle class,
Okay.
merchant kind of class. My mother was fifth of 9 kids in Haiti. My dad had a second of 3 people. They came to the States back in the 60s and 70s and had me. We were always comfortable, and we always had a really loving household where our needs were provided for, but it was middle class. My mother was a homemaker. She did a little bit of commercial real estate when I was in high school, but my dad was an engineer, and for the most part, she was a homemaker. So it was a single income family. We had enough for a comfortable suburban life in New Jersey, but it wasn't extreme wealth. But the wealth was in the
values.
Not only the value, but they loved Napoleon Hill.
Oh my goodness.
Deepak Chopra, Louise Hay.
Wow.
So my Tony Robbins.
Wow.
My life was enriched by their connection with these really high functioning individuals who opened up the reality that you are the creator of your reality. So that wealth was
what an inheritance.
What an inheritance indeed. And I think that too often people mistake money wealth for wealth. And I know, we all know, people who are very wealthy and who are miserable.
Yes.
So,
or they commit suicide.
Or they have families who are a wreck because nobody's paying attention to them. And
right.
So wealth can take many forms, and if you don't have balance in that, it's a bummer for everybody.
Sounds like you've done a lot of work on yourself. Thank you for doing that.
Absolutely.
More people should do the I call it homework. Should do the homework,
yes.
on the internal home that people are walking around with.
Yes.
How much time and money do you think you spent on yourself in order to become this person?
I appreciate that question because it's something that is very meaningful to me. I feel like if I don't come from a base of service, and if I don't take care of myself, I absolutely can't take care of anybody else. In the morning, I spend at least an hour and a half journaling, setting up a matrix for the day, contemplating like how to just stay centered, talking about breath and coming back to center, because real estate is emotional. It's surprisingly emotional. Yeah. And if somebody is in a space of volatility, they're not going to be able to make good choices. So if I can mirror to them a space that is safe and calm and present and slow things down so people know that they are being heard, they are understood, and it is us against problem. It's not an adversarial thing. It is us as a team dealing with whatever the issue is. It makes a huge difference.
Huge difference.
Yes.
Which brings me to my next question. Why do you think some escrows are like PTSD nightmares and other ones work really smooth?
Smooth sailing.
Yeah. What's the difference in those various escrows?
I think it's a number of things. There's a human element where people make mistakes, and there's a time for shaming, and there's a time for realizing, okay, this is what is happening. Let's get behind it and figure out a pathway forward. Sometimes people bring their baggage to the transaction and project all over everybody else, and it's kind of no wonder that it's a dumpster fire. There are some times where everyone is moving in synchrony, and it is this beautiful,
and you're like, I don't want it to
dance.
end.
And it makes me so happy. And everyone is just so loving and so loved and so high that it's like, yes, this is a dream scenario. It's one of the things that I aspire everything to go to, but you can't predict the unpredictable.
Right.
All you can do is ride the wave, and sometimes you crash, but you get back on the board and you ride it again.
I love yes, all of this. Really underline mistakes, right? Because I
Yes.
feel like the fear that first-time homebuyers have at nighttime is, say if I make the biggest mistake of my life and I buy a money pit or that I hate or whatever it may be, what advice do you have on how to avoid mistakes as a first-time homebuyer? Or can you?
I think that what you can do is deal with an experienced professional on the front end. And that's not just a realtor. It's an experienced, licensed home inspector. In Hawaii, you don't need to have a license to be a home inspector, which is really bananas to me because it's such a high dollar market. So I have had buyers before me who have canceled a sale because their home inspector did not understand the workings of the plumbing of a property.
Wow.
My buyers were able to go in at asking instead of 100,000 over asking because the home inspector of the buyers before them was not educated on something. And so it's kind of like if you can surround yourself with experienced professionals, that goes a really long way in eliminatable problems. There are some things that no one can foresee.
Right.
But if you have those same experts, they are willing to figure it out. And to me, that's one of the top of serving my clients. That's kind of like, okay, I might not know the exact pathway, but I know that I have the capacity to figure it out.
Right. Or I know who to call who can.
Exactly. So surrounding yourself with excellence is another form of wealth building.
I love that.
Right?
Yeah, I love all of that. Because I think a lot of times, one of your points about people believe that wealth is a physical asset.
Right.
But, you know, we feel like we understand that the most valuable piece of real estate you can own is your mind. Because
Yes.
you can have all the material things that you want, but if you don't have your mental health, I believe you don't have wealth.
I absolutely
Because
agree.
I mean, it's really challenging to navigate through this world, and or you might have it, but it's really hard to pass it down to the next generation unless you have a team of professionals involved.
Yes.
Stewards, to be fiduciaries.
Yes. So I know you know the saying, your net worth is your net worth. I feel like that translates to more than the physical wealth that you acquire. So if you are surrounding yourself by people who inspire you, who are aspirational, who keep reaching towards excellence, to me that does buoy everyone up. And when you do that, it really, when you have the humility to realize, okay, I don't know this, but I do know that I have people around me who might have some kind of sense, and then you can ask them about it, it makes such a huge difference. It does allow for collaboration without ego, which is something that I love about companies.
Yeah, for sure. And I just want to thank you for coming on, sharing your time with me, sharing this space with me,
Of
knowledge with everyone who's listening. It's refreshing to see people who have worked on themselves and are willing to give back. So thank you.
My pleasure, genuinely. It feels to me, for me, I've always felt like real estate is kind of it's a spiritual calling, and it's an opportunity to serve people in one of their most vulnerable spaces, because people are really worried about making the biggest, most expensive mistake of their lives. But if you are buying property, if you just look historically, it's always coming up sevens. Like, you are always going to benefit. If you buy and hold historically, you can't go wrong with that. So you might not love
I laugh because my husband and I met at a casino, and I used to always joke and say the house always wins. In this case, I'm like, it does.
Amen to that, because it's so true. It's so true. Yeah.
Aww.
Thank you for having me. This is such a wonderful way to showcase all the excellence that you surround yourself with and that you can bring out of agents who sincerely want to make the world better through what they're doing. So I really appreciate what you do for our community.
Yeah, thank you.